Great news. Apparently, if I leave this plugged in while recording, I actually gain some battery life. Woohoo! So we are gonna keep going. As long as my voice is holding out, I want to get as much recorded as possible. I'm gonna do this, and then I may do another chapter or two of the Great Glass Elevator, just because I think my next chapter is pretty long. But I have been meaning to show this off. I am working on a different style of knitting. It's going to be a baby blanket. Yes, I'm using both baby blue and the baby pink because I think that works. But if you notice, like on this side, it's the pink is more prominent. On this side, the blue is. So I'm reversing the stitches, and I think it looks awesome. Sorry, it's a new well, it's not a new style of knitting, but it's new to me, and I am really proud of what I've gotten done. So I'm just showing that off. I've been meaning to start showing some of my crafting. Normally, I know Miss Skitter is like right here, and she's in every video. Well, she's with us right now, but she's snoring away on my lap. I don't want her to disturb the young lady, or I should call her my little old lady. She's had a long day of yelling at the wind. She loves to talk. So, since it's been 4 days since I last posted this, although it's only been a couple of minutes since I've recorded, I want to quickly review what we learned in the last chapter. Elgion has asked Elmi to teach him how to sail. They got to a point where he was trying to figure out how he was going to talk to Elmi about fire lizards. Boys and their lizards. Honestly, I would love a fire lizard. Always wanted one. From the first time I read the book, I have always wanted a fire lizard. Dragons are cool. Fire lizards are awesome. In my opinion. Because I can have a fire lizard in my place. Sort of. Sorry, I'm a big kid. But in regards to they got into a discussion about Melanie while they were sailing. Elmi was, in his own way, was finally able to tell Elgion that his sister was the one who did the teaching, but he tried to make it clear that she didn't want to be part of it, because from his point of view, she was leaving because of the music, not realizing it was because of their parents that she was leaving. So, yeah, we are about to start chapter 9. As this book seems to go, its last chapter was the Seahold, Elgion, Elmi, whomever is at the Seahold at that time. And then the next chapter is Melanie's point of view. And then back to the Seahold and back to Melanie. So this last chapter, very end of the chapter, Elgion unbarred the door, wandered off for the day. Same thing that Melanie did on the last day that she was there. Not saying that it's his last day there, but it just seems to foreshadow something's about to happen. And let's go see what it is. Now that I'm like almost 5 minutes into this opening. Chapter 9. O tongue, give sound to joy and sing, of hope and promise on dragon wing. The hunger of the fire lizards roused Melanie from sleep. There was nothing in the cave to eat because the previous day had been wet enough to keep them all inside. She saw that the tide was well out and the day was clear. If we scramble, we can get down coast and pick up a nice lot of spider claws. They'll be gone soon, she told her friends. Or we can look for rock mites. So come along, Beauty. The little queen hummed from her warm nest in the rushes, and the others began to stir. Melanie reached down and tickled Lazy's neck where he lay at her feet. He slapped at her, rousing enough to let out a huge yawn. His eyelids peeled back and his eyes sparkled faintly red. Now don't you all start in on me. I got you up so we could be off. You won't be hungry long if we all stir smartly. As she descended agilely to the beach, her friends swooping gracefully from the cave, some of the other fire lizards were feeding in the shallows. Melanie called out a greeting to them. She wondered, as she often did, if the other fire lizards, with the notable exception of the queen, were at all aware of her. She felt it rude not to acknowledge their presence, whether they responded or not. Maybe one day they would have grown so used to her that they'd answer. She slipped on the wet rocks at the far end of the cove, wincing as a sharp edge made itself painfully felt through the thinning soles of her boots. That was a matter she'd have to attend to soon. New boot soles. With such rough surfaces, she couldn't go barefoot, and she certainly couldn't climb barefooted, not if she had toes like a watch wear. She'd have to get another wary, tan its leg hide to proper toughness. But how could she sew the new leather to her old boot sole? She looked down at her feet, placing them carefully as much to save the leather as her feet. She took her band to the farthest cove they'd yet explored, far enough down the coast for the Dragonstones to be knobs on the horizon. But the long walk was worth the effort for the spider claws scurried wildly up and down the wide, gently curving beach. The bluff had dwindled to a height just above her head in some places, and at the far end of the crescent sands, a stream fed into the sea. Beauty and the others were soon playing havoc with the spider claws, diving down on their intended prey, then darting up to the cliffs to eat. When her net was full, Melanie searched for enough sea wreckage to start a fire. That was how she found the clutch, covered as it was and almost level with the beach surface. But she saw the faint outline of a mound suspiciously circular. She brushed away enough sand to expose the mottled shell of a hardening fire lizard egg. She glanced around carefully, wondering if the queen was anywhere about. But she only saw her 9. She put a gentle finger on the exposed egg. It was selfish. Quickly she patted the sand back into place and hurried from the clutch. The high tide mark on this beach was a long way from threatening the eggs. It pleased her to realize that this beach was a long way from any hold, so these fire lizard eggs were safe. She gathered sufficient wood, made a rude hearth, started her fire, killed the spider claws daftly, and laid them on a conveniently flat stone, and went exploring while they baked. The stream flowed broad into the sea. Sandbanks had formed and reformed, to judge by the myriad of channels. Melanie followed the stream inland, looking for the sweet cresses that often grew where the water freshened. Submarine bodies moved upstream too, and she wondered if she could catch one of the big specklers. Elmi had often boasted that he could tackle them into his grasp as they fought the current. Thinking of the spider claws roasting on her fire, Melanie decided to leave that exercise until another day. She did want some greens. Succulent cresses and their odd, tangy aftertaste would make a good addition to spider claws. She found the greens well above the tide water, where the stream was fed by tiny trickles from the flat, marshy lands through which it loped. She was greedily stuffing a handful of greens into her mouth before she really took in her surroundings. In the distance, low on the horizon, were lightning flashes against a gray sky. Dread, fear rooted her to the ground. She nearly choked on the half-chewed mouthful of greens. She tried to talk herself out of terror by counting the flashes of dragonfire that made a pattern across the sky, a wide, long pattern. If the dragon riders were already at work, the thread wouldn't get as far as here. She was a long way from it. But how far away was safe? She'd just made it to the cave before that other fall. She was too far away. Run as fast as ever she could to reach the cave's safety now. She'd the sea behind her, water. She'd the stream beside her, thread drowned in water. But how deep did it fall before it drowned? She told herself firmly that now was not the time to panic. She forced herself to swallow the last of the cress juices. Then she had no control over her legs. They took off with her, and she was running towards the sea, towards the rocky safety of her cave. Beauty appeared over her head, swooping and chittering as she caught Melanie's fear. Rocky and Diver arrived with Mimic, popping in a half-breath later. They experienced her alarm, circling around her head as she ran, calling out with the piercingly sweet tenor bugle of challenge. Then they all disappeared, which made running easier for Melanie. She could concentrate on where she was putting her feet. She made diagonally for the beaches, wondering briefly if it wouldn't be smarter to go along the shoreline. She'd be that much nearer the dubious safety of the water. She hurdled a ditch, managed to keep her balance as her left foot twisted on landing, staggered a few paces before she found her stride again. No, there'd be more rocks on the shore, cutting down her speed and increasing the danger of a badly twisted ankle. Two queens gleamed golden in the sky above her, and Rocky and Diver were back with Lazybones, Mimic, and Brownie. The two queens chittered angrily, and the males, to Melanie's surprise, flew ahead of her now, and high enough not to be a nuisance. She ran on. She came to a height and the incline robbed her of breath so that she staggered to the summit and had to drop to a walk, clutching her right side against the nagging stitch, but somehow moving forward. Ahead of her, the Dragonstones were more than knobs, but too distant to reassure. One look over her shoulder at the sky bursts of dragon fire told her that the thread was gaining on her. She broke into a run again, the two queens gliding right over her head, and she felt oddly protected. She had her second wind now and her stride, and felt as if she could run forever. If she could only run fast enough to stay beyond the reach of the thread. She kept her eyes on the Dragonstones, refusing to look over her shoulder. That unnerving sight caught the breath she needed for running. She ran as close to the bluff edge as she dared. She'd slithered down one cliff without desperate damage to herself. She'd risk it again to get into the water if she had to. She ran, one eye on the Dragonstones, one for the ground ahead of her feet. She heard the whoosh, heard the fire lizard's startled chirpings, saw the shadow, and fell to the ground, covering her head instinctively with her hands, her body taut for the first feel of the flesh-scoring thread. She smelled firestone and felt the air heavy against her body. "Get to your feet, you silly fool, and hurry! Leading Edge is nearly on us!" Incredulous Melanie looked up, right into the whirling eyes of a brown dragon. He cocked his head and hummed urgently. "Get up," said his rider. Melanie wasted no time after a frantic look at the fire blossoms and the sight of a line of dragons swooping and disappearing. She scrambled to her feet, dove for the brown rider's extended hand and one of the fighting strap ends, and got herself firmly astride the brown's neck behind his rider. "Hang on to me tightly and don't be afraid. I'm going to take you between to Bendon. It'll be cold and dark, but I'll be with you." The relief of being rescued when she was fearing injury or death was too overwhelming for speech. The brown dragon half ran to the bluff edge, dropped down briefly to get wing room, and then surged up. Melanie felt herself pressed against the soft, warm flesh and burrowed into the hide-clad back of her rescuer, struggling for a lungful of air to ease her tight chest. She had one brief glimpse of her little fire lizards trying vainly to follow when the dragon winked into in-between. Sweat froze on her forehead and cheeks, down her back, on her calf, her wet and ragged boots, and her sore feet. There was no air to breathe, and she felt as if she would suffocate. She tightened her hands convulsively on the dragon rider, but she couldn't feel him or the dragon she knew she was riding. Now she thought with that part of her mind that wasn't frozen in panic. She fully understood that teaching song. In terror, she fully understood it. Abruptly, sight, sound, feeling, and breath returned. They were spiraling down at a dizzying height above Brandon Ware. As big as Half Circle was, this place of dragons and dragon men was bigger by half again as much. Why, the immense harbor of Half Circle would have fitted with dragon lengths to spare in the bowl of the Ware. As the dragon circled, she saw the giant star stones and the eye rock, which told them when the red star would make its fateful passes. She saw the watch dragon beside the stones, heard him trumpet a greeting to the brown she rode. Between her legs she felt the rumble of response in the brown's throat. As they glided down, she saw several dragons on the bowl floor, with people gathered about them, saw the steps leading to the queen's weir, and the yawning maw of the hatching ground. Bendon was vaster than she imagined. The brown landed near the other dragons, and Melanie now realized that the dragons had been thread-scored and were being treated. The brown dragon half folded his wings, craning his neck around to the two on his back. "You can relax your death hold, lad," said the brown rider with tolerant amusement as he unfastened the fighting straps from his belt. Melanie jerked her hands free with a muttered apology. "I can't thank you enough for finding me. I thought thread would get me." "Whoever let you out of your hold so near to Threadfall?" "I was catching spider claws. Went out early." He accepted that explanation, but now Melanie wondered how she could make it plausible. She couldn't remember the name of the nearest hold on the Nerat side of Half Circle. "Down you go, lad. I've got to rejoin my wing to mop up." That was the second time he had called her lad. "You've got a fine pace on you. Ever think of going for hold rudder?" The brown rider swung her forward so she could slide down the brown's shoulders. The moment her feet touched the ground, she thought she'd faint with the pain. She grabbed frantically at the brown's foreleg. He nuzzled her sympathetically, humming to his rider. "Branneth says you're hurt?" The man slid down quickly beside her. "My feet!" She'd run the boots to the uppers without knowing it, and her lacerated feet were bloody from toe to heel. I'll tell the world. Here we go." He grabbed her by the wrist, gave a practiced yank, and laid her over his shoulder. As he made for the entrance to the lower caverns, he called out for someone to bring a pot of numbweed. She was upright into a chair, the blood singing in her ears. Someone was propping her damaged feet into a stool, while women converged on her from several sides. "Hey, Menera! Felina!" yelled the brown rider urgently. "Just look at his feet! He'd run them raw! To grain, wherever! Saw him trying to outrun Thread down Nerat way. Bloody near did." "Bloody's quite accurate. Menera, could you spare a moment, please?" "Should we wash the feet first, or—" "No, a cup of weed first," was Tigrane's suggestion. "You'll have to cut the boots off." Someone was holding a cup against her lips, bidding her drink it all down. On a stomach empty of anything but a few blades of cress, the fellus juice acted so quickly that the circle of faces about her became a confused blur. "Good heavens, the holders have gone mad, going out in Threadfall." Melanie thought the speaker sounded like Menera. "This is the second one we've rescued today." After that, voices became indistinguishable mumbles. Melanie was unable to focus her eyes. She seemed to be floating a few handspans off the ground, which suited her because she didn't want to use her feet anyway. Seated at a table on the other side of the kitchen caverns, Elgion at first thought the boy had fainted with relief at being rescued. He could appreciate the feeling, certainly, having been sighted by a dragon rider as he was pelting back towards Half Circle, fully winded and despairing of life. Now, with his stomach full of good ware stew, his wits and breath restored, he was forced to face his folly in going outside of the hold so close to a fall, and more daunting to contemplate the reception on his return to Half Circle. Talk about disgracing the sea hold, and his explanation that he was searching for fire lizard eggs would not go down well with Yanis. Even Elmi, what would he think? Elgion sighed and watched as several werewomen carried the boy off towards the living caverns. He half rose, wondering if he should have volunteered to help. Then he saw his first fire lizard and forgot everything else. It was a little golden queen swooping into the cavern, calling piteously. She seemed to hover motionless in midair, then winked out of sight. A moment later she was diving into the kitchen caverns again, less agitated, but looking for something or someone. A girl emerged from the living cavern, saw the fire lizard, and held up her arm. The little queen delicately landed, stroking the girl's face with her tiny head, while the girl evidently reassured her. The two walked out into the bowl. "You've never seen one, Harper?" asked an amused voice, and Elgion came out of his trance to attend the werewoman who'd been serving him food. "No, I haven't." She laughed at the wistfulness in his voice. "That's Grawl, Venor's little queen," Fedna told him. Then abruptly she asked Elgion if he'd like more stew. He politely declined because he'd already had 2 platefuls of food, being in the wearer's way of treasuring those they'd rescued. "I really should be finding out if I can get back to Half Circle Sea Hold. They'll have discovered my absence, and—" "Don't worry on that account, Harper, for word was passed back through the fighting wings. They'll let Half Circle know you're safely here." Elgion expressed proper gratitude, but he couldn't help fretting over Yanis's displeasure. He would simply have to make it clear that he'd been following were orders, and Yanis was nothing if not obedient to his were. Nonetheless, Elgion did not relish his return to the sea hold. He also couldn't politely insist on going when he chose, because the dragons were tired as they returned to their were. Thread successfully obliterated on this fall. Some of the young Harper's worst apprehensions were relieved by Talgion, the bronze wing leader in charge of that fall. "I myself told them you were safe, and a good thing, too. They were all ready to mount a search, which for old Yanis is a remarkable concession." Elgion grimaced. "I suppose it wouldn't look well to lose 2 Harpers in a short time." "Nonsense! Already Yanis praises you above fish, or so Elmi said." "Was he angry?" "Who? Yanis?" "No, Elmi." "Why? I'd say he was better pleased than Yanis to hear you were safe and scoreless at Brandon. More important, did you see any signs of fire lizard clutches? No. Telgan sighed, stripping off his wide riding belt and opening the heavy ware-hide jacket. How we need the silly creatures. Are they that useful? Telgan gave him a long look. Probably not. Lassa thinks of them as a real nuisance, but they look and act like dragons, and they give those narrow-minded, hide-bound, insensitive lord holders just that necessary glimpse of what it is to ride a dragon. That is going to make life and progress easier for us in the Ware. Elgion rather hoped that this had been made plain to Yanis, and he was going to tactfully suggest that he was ready to go back to the Seahold when the bronze rider was called away to check a dragon's wing injury. Elgion found the additional delay instructive. He decided he would put his observations to good use in getting back to Yanis's favor, for he had an opportunity to see where life as unsung in the sagas and ballad. An injured dragon cried piteously as a child until his wounds were slaved with numbweed. A dragon also cried distressingly if his rider was injured. Elgion watched the touching sight of a green dragon crooning anxiously at her rider as he leaned against her forearm, while the were-woman dressed his thread-scored arm. Elgion saw the werelings bathing and oiling their young beasts, the wares several fire lizards assisting. He saw the youngsters of the Ware refilling Firestone sacks for the next fall, and couldn't fail to notice that they made less work of the onerous chore than the Seahold lads would have done. He even ventured to peer into the hatching ground, where Golden Raymith lay curled protectively around her eggs. He ducked out of sight, hoping she hadn't seen him. Time passed so quickly that Elgion was surprised to hear the kitchen women calling everyone in to eat. He hovered at the entrance, wondering what to do, when Telgion grabbed him by the arm and propelled him to an empty table. Gazelle, come over here with that brawn nuisance of yours. I want the half-circle Harper to see him. Gazelle has one of the original clutch Fëanor discovered in Southern, Telgion said in an undertone as they watched the stocky young man weaving his way through the tables towards them, balancing a brown fire lizard on his forearm. This is Rill, Harper, Gazelle said, extending his arm to Elgion. Rill, be courteous. He's a Harper. With great dignity, the fire lizard extended his wings, executing what Elgion constructed to be a bow, while the jeweled eyes regarded him intensely. Not knowing how one saluted a fire lizard, Elgion tentatively extended his hand. Scratch his eye ridges, Gazelle suggested. They all love that. To Elgion's delight and amazement, the fire lizard accepted the caress, and as Elgion's stroking eased an itch, Rill's eyelids began to close in sensuous pleasure. He's another convert, said Talgion, laughing and pulling out his chair. The noise roused the fire lizard from its somnolence, and he hissed softly at Talgion. They're bold creatures, too, you'll notice, Harper, with no respect for degree. This was evidently an old jibe, for Gazelle seated himself and paid no heed, but coaxed Rill into step onto the padded shoulder rest so he could eat the dinner now being served. How much do they understand? Algion asked, taking the chair opposite Gazelle so he could see Rill better. Do you hear Miriam talk about her three? Everything. Talgion snorted with good-natured derision. I can ask Rill to carry a message to any place he's already been. No, to a person he knows at another hold or where I've taken him to. He follows me no matter where I go. Even during Threadfall, at Talgion's snort, Gazelle added, I told you to watch today, Talgion. Rill was with us. Yes, so tell Algion how long it takes Rill to come back from delivering a message. All right, Gazelle said with a laugh as he stroked Rill affectionately. And when you've one of your own, Talgion? Possibly, the bronze rider said easily. Unless Algion here finds us another clutch, we'll just have to stay jealous of you. Talgion changed the subject then to ask about half-circle hold, general questions that did not embarrass or compromise Algion. Talgion evidently knew Yanis's reputation. If you feel too isolated there, Harper, don't fail to fly the signal, and we'll pop you up for an evening here. Hatching soon, Gazelle suggested, grinning and giving Algion a wink. He'll be here for that, certainly, Talgrian agreed. Then Rill creeled for a bite to eat while the bronze rider chided Gazelle for turning the lizard into an inopportune beggar. Algion noticed Talgion himself finding a tidbit for the little bronze, however, and he too offered Rill some meat, which the creature daintily accepted from the knife. By the end of the meal, Algion was ready to brave Yanis's worst displeasure and wrath to find a fire lizard clutch and impress a fire lizard of his own. That prospect made his inevitable return easier. I'd better do you the honors, Algion, Talgion said, rising at last from the table. And I'd also better get you back early. No sense aggravating Yanis more than necessary. Algion wasn't certain how to take that remark or the wink that accompanied it, particularly as it was now full dark, and for all he knew, the hold doors were already barred for the night. Too late now to wish he'd gone back as soon as the dragon riders had returned from the fall. But then he wouldn't have met Rill. They were aloft, Algion reveling in the experience, craning his head to see as much as possible in the clear night air. He'd only a glimpse of the higher Brendan ranged hills before Talgion asked Monarth to take them between. Suddenly, it was no longer full dark. The sun was a handspan above the glowing sea as they burst into the air above Half-Circle Harbor. Told you I'd get you back early, Talgion said, turning a grin at the Harper's startled exclamation. We're not supposed to time it, but all in good cause. Monrith circled down lazily, so everyone in the sea-hold was gathered on the holdway when they landed. Yanis strode a few paces ahead of the others, while Algion searched the faces for enemies. Talgion leaped from the bronze's shoulder and made a show of assisting Algion as the entire hold cheered loudly for their Harper's safe return. "I'm neither crippled or old," Algion muttered under his breath, aware of Yanis's approach. "Don't overdo it." Talgion laid his arm across Algion's shoulder in camaraderie fashion, beaming at the oncoming seaholder. "Not at all," he said, out of the corner of his mouth. "The wearer approves." "Seaholder, I am profoundly embarrassed at the inconvenience." "No, Harper Algion," Talgalion interrupted him. "Any apologies are the wares. You were adamant in wishing to return to Half Circle immediately, but Lessa needed to have his report, Yanis, or we had to wait. Whatever Yanis was about to say to his erring Harper was neatly blocked by Talgion's obvious approval. The seaholder rocked a bit on his feet, blinking as he reorganized his thoughts. "Any fire lizard sign you have discovered must be made known to the wearer as soon as possible," Talgalion continued blithely. "Then that tale is true?" Yanis asked in a grumble of disbelief. Those creatures do exist?" "They do indeed, sir," Algion replied warmly. "I have seen, touched, and fed a bronze fire lizard. His name is Rill. He's about as big as my forearm." "You did? He is?" Almi had pushed through the crowd, breathless from excitement and the exercise of hobbling as fast as he could down the holdway. "Then you did find something in the cave?" The cave! Algion had forgotten all about his original distraction that morning. His original destination that morning. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my voice. Not my voice, my words. "What cave?" demanded Talgalion. "The cave!" Algion had forgotten about his original destination that morning. "What cave?" demanded Talgalion. "The cave!" And Algion gulped, then boldly embroidered on the lie Talgalion had begun. "I told Lessa about... Surely you were in the room then?" "What cave?" demanded Yanis, stepping close to the younger man, his voice half angry because he was being excluded from the conversation. "The cave that Elmi and I spotted on the shore near the Dragonstones," Algion said, trying to give the proper cues. "Elmi," Algion had to address Talgalion now, "is the seaman who saw the fire lizards last spring near the Dragonstones. 2-3 days back, we sailed down the coast and saw the cave. That's where I think it's likely we'll find the fire lizard eggs." "Well, then since you're now safely in your hold, Harper Algion, I will leave you." Talgalion couldn't wait to get back to Monarth and the cave. "You'll let us know if you find anything, won't you?" Algion called after him and received only a wide-armed gesture before the bronze rider swung himself up onto Monarth's back. "We'd offer him no hospitality for his trouble in returning you," Yanis said, worried and somewhat aggravated by the bronze rider's presumptuous departure. "He'd just eaten," Algion replied, as the bronze rider beat his way upwards to the sunlit waters of the harbor. "So early?" He'd been He'd been fighting the Red, and he's wing leader, so he must be back at the weir. That did impress Yanis. Rider and Dragon winked out, drawing a startled exclamation of delight from everyone. Elmy caught Elgin's eye, and the Harper had to suppress his grin. He'd share the full jest with Elmy later. Only would the joke be on himself if, after all the half-truths, Degalion found fire lizard eggs, or a piper, in the cave. Harper Elgion, said Yanis firmly, weaving the rest of the holders away from them as he pointed to the hold door. Harper Elgion, I'd be grateful for a few words of explanation. Indeed, sir, and I've much to report to you of the happenings in the weir. Elgion respectfully followed the seaholder. He knew now how to deal with Yanis with no further recourse to the evasions or lies. And that's the end of Chapter 9. That one was a little bit longer than the last one, and I am definitely going to call it an evening on the long chapters from here. Of course, that leaves us with only 4 more to go, and things are going to get a little crazy in a whole lot of good ways. But that's great. I kind of forgot that in this chapter we actually got it from both points of view. I mean, it's still all in third person, but we got it from Melanie's side and from Elgion's side. And that's the first time in the book we've really seen that. Oh, so she got caught out in Threadfall again, but this time she was rescued. And although she doesn't know it, she's now somewhere where other fire lizards are. And they're not going to give her problems. Or at least we hope not. So, I think that's where I'm going to call it here for this evening. My throat's a little rough. I've had fireworks in the background. Skitter singing for, I don't know what she was singing for. Not her supper, because she's already eaten, and she's got more food there. And she's had her medicine and her treats. It's always medicine, then treats. She's very good at taking her medicine now, because she always gets a treat afterwards. Oh, goodness. What time is it? I have no idea what time it is. Oh, it's 11:30 in the evening. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it there for the night. I'll see you all again in 4 days. Hope you had a great morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time it is for you there. If you want, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Have yourself a great whatever. Oh gosh. It's going to be one of those nights. Have a great one. Bye-bye.